what's going on? You're now tuned in to the PVD Horror Podcast. I'm Brandon and I'm joined by my co-host Dave. Today we have a special guest, John Massari. He is best known for scoring the cult classic film Killer Klowns from Outer Space. John, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. How's my makeup?
I look great, man.
It's
Oh, good.
perfect. Perfection.
I'm growing this Abrahamic beard. I'm trying to get it all out so that when I go back to my Tony Stark look, I have something to work with.
There you
Because
go.
I think sometimes I forget to put my glasses on when I'm shaving, and it gets out of whack. So
Yeah.
um,
The beard's
please,
looking good. I like it. It's looking good.
I'm embracing the hobo
I've been
right
embracing it for
now.
a few years myself, so I hear you.
Right.
There you go. It looks great, man. We love it. But
Sure.
yeah, John, thanks for coming on, man, because we're actually gearing up for a cool screening on July 26th at Buttonwoods Brewery. We're going to be showing one of our favorite films, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So, I
Right.
thought it was great to kind of like have you on the podcast and just talk about, everything about the film that you were involved in. So we appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it. Uh, let me extend an apology. What part of the country are you guys in again?
We're over in Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. Oh, wow, that's awesome. I was originally from the Northeast myself,
Mm,
and my apologies to everyone. Fans ask me, there's various conventions all over the place. They ask, "Are you going to be there? Are you going to be there?" And it's like I can't invite myself. The promoters of whatever or the organizers of whatever horror convention, have to invite me. I
mm,
Yeah.
can't like say, "Hi, would you? How about having me over?" Because people have asked to see me, and so, but the fans don't quite understand that, and
yeah.
they think I just don't want to come. But I'd be happy to go if I'm invited. I'm going to be doing two appearances this year. One Texas, and one is here in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Convention Center. So
Okay.
those are the only two things I'm doing so far. So my apologies to the
Yeah.
fans, and I take it everyone to your event. Um, they've seen the movie before, or we are kind of warming them up to Killer Clowns.
I would make a guess that we're probably going to have a little bit of both, and that's typically the case. We do a lot of like 80s
Oh,
like cult horror films, and normally we are showing people things, and it's like a 50-50 split as far as if people have seen it or they haven't. We have a lot of people that
I
love these
see.
films and they want to come back and see them, and then we have people that are like, I don't know how I missed this film, but I got to check it out. And what better way to enjoy it than with a bunch of your friends hanging out and having
Well,
some beer and food and laughs.
right. It's like a comfort food movie, and usually um, it's attended by anytime I've been to a screening where the movie's been uh, exhibited on a large screen. It's usually people that are fans of the movie that have never seen it on a large screen, and those people they dragged to see it with them.
Yeah. No,
And
yes.
then usually out of those people that got dragged to see it with them, they've been they've been indoctrinated, and they
Yeah.
love Killer Clowns. Before they would have been
Yep.
dismissive of it, which is
Yep.
what I experienced when we first worked on the movie. I mean, when I worked on the movie, you have to understand this is around the time where Tim Burton released that brilliant film of his called Beetlejuice.
Yep.
Uh,
And I thought, oh my goodness, the people that are making this Killer Clowns from Outer Space film are so on top of it, because we are going with that trend in the horror genre of mixing uh, uh, comedy with horror and just bizarre wackiness, kind of like favorite films of mine, like The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T, and
Mm.
a film that Richard Elfman directed in the earlier, like in the mid 80s or early 80s, called, um, it was scored by his brother, Danny Elfman. It was The Forbidden Zone.
Okay.
A brilliant movie. And I thought, that's the kind of those are the kind of movies I want to work on. And so when we did the movie, the title alone was, sometimes people understood it and a lot of people were put off by it. And unfortunately, we got a horrible release. We were only in theaters around the country. It was like a traveling show. It's like they only made a certain number of prints, and they would show it like 6 or 7 cities at a time, and it would only be in the theater for like the weekend, like the short
Oh,
weekend,
okay.
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, or maybe even Sunday. And then by the time word got out that it was this fun, wacky film, everyone, people would come to the movie theater the next week, and it was gone. And I always romanticize, had we had social media in the day where
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people can find, discover a movie and come see it. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
We had to rely on print. So it got good review in Los Angeles, at least. The LA Weekly and the LA Times gave it a really wonderful reviews, such that if it just played another week, I think it would have made a complete difference. I went to school with a composer named Christopher Young, who did the famous movie Hellraiser.
Okay.
And I often tell him, I go, Chris, what if Hellraiser was in the movie theater for just 2 days or 3 days? And he said, that would be so horrible. I remember when it came out, I went to see Hellraiser twice, and I'm
Yeah.
not, at the time I wasn't the biggest horror fan, but because a friend of mine worked on it, I had to see it.
Yeah.
And this, it was also, it's like this bizarre, there was nothing like it
Yeah. Yeah.
before that. And just like Killer Klowns. But now we're here. We're here. People have discovered the movie. I'm so grateful to be here to witness it. And there's all sorts of wonderful projects I'm working on. I'm actually just finishing up a Killer Klowns music project that has nothing to do with the video game,
Okay.
that I hope to release next year. It's a
Cool.
Oh,
lot of fun. It's just a pure music project.
oh,
So,
that's dope.
but that's all inspired by the fans that have
Yeah.
rediscovered the film.
Oh, yeah. But John, let's get into like your career, you know what I mean? Like how you got started, because you got into exploring like and creating music at a young age. Can you tell us a
Mhm.
little bit what helped inspire you in your career?
Well, it's interesting because I just visited the place that I saw my first matinee with my
Mm,
daughters the other on the Father's Day weekend, and let me see. I've always loved music, and I was fat. You couldn't tear me away from a radio
mm,
because music came out of it. And back back in the day, a stereo system that was called a hi-fi set. It was basically like a piece of furniture that
mm.
had 2 big speakers in it, and with a radio tuner on FM, AM, and shortwave. And you could also, obviously play records. And some of the more elaborate sets had reel to reel. Of course, my dad was kind of um, a, a, a gear nerd, and so he always had a nice sound reproduction system. But my parents had no musical talent whatsoever. And so I was always fascinated. Even at like 3 or 4 years old, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and turn on the radio just to turn dials on the radio station and listen to music. And then my parents got wise to that and just got me my own little radio for my uh, bedroom, and I would just listen to it all night. I would look at the radio, thinking that musicians were always at the radio station playing music. This is a 3 or 4 year
Wait,
old,
that's not
right?
how it works.
No, it's not.
Oh,
Unfortunately, that's not how it works.
damn it.
So, I also got a what was called a crystal set. A crystal set was just like this collection of copper wires and a one piece one piece earpiece for just one ear, and you hook that up to your the the water hose that came out of the side of the house, and you had this thing, this piece of metal that went across this this wrapped copper, and you can tune into radio stations. And I'd be out there all day just listen, like going through, like I'm listening for aliens to send us a message. And I was just listening to music, so I was always fascinated with music. uh, the Beatles were a thing, and I was absolutely mesmerized by their music at the time. Um, and I wanted to play guitar so bad. I would get to the point. For the life of me, I don't know why my dad couldn't have gone to a pawn shop and got a guitar for me to play with. But I used to make a guitar from um, like a ruler or a piece of wood, and strap some rubber bands across it and pretend it was a guitar. So then I would say I was like 6 years old, and I went to my first, all by myself, my first matinee, where it was a triple feature. It was The Time Machine, Journey to the Center of the Earth, and The Mysterious Island.
Hmm.
And so I was just completely captivated by the those films. And it was around that time my mom decided she was going to learn how to play piano, and she never did, but you couldn't tear me off that piano. I was always tinkering with it. So I didn't realize music was always so important to me, and there were so many things I thought I was going to do when I was a kid. I thought I was going to become an astronaut. I thought I was going to be. I was very fascinated with architecture. I wanted to be an architectural um, draftsman and model builder. It was something artistic, but music was the big draw. And I says, you know what? I have to do music. That's where I feel that's where I want to be. So I didn't even know it was a thing you could do to earn money. And at the time, we used to go to Disneyland. Disneyland was different back then because it was like an amusement park. You actually walk in without paying to enter,
Wow.
and
Oh man.
you purchased your tickets on the rides that
Oh,
you wanted to
okay.
go on, right? So they also had like Count Basie's band used to play at Disney. Buddy Rich, some of these big bands, Woody Herman
Hmm.
used to play there. And then at Knott's Berry Farm, they had country music. They had Chet Atkins, who's a very famous guitar player, country guitar player. Dolly Parton used to be there, and and it was free.
Yeah.
It was like part of the experience. And so I grew up looking at like incredible musicians. I was just fascinated with them, more so the music that they were playing. So I wanted to create music. I didn't want to be so much of a musician but create music for musicians to play. So obviously I studied music very seriously, and I had a band that we used to play dances in high school, and we played what you would call metal music now, but back then we just called it hard rock. And we used to go to like big venues and see like Pink Floyd, Deep Purple, Blue Oyster Cult, Kiss, Yes, uh, um, um, not Ozzy Osbourne. Before Ozzy Osbourne was Ozzy Osbourne, he was Black Sabbath.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we see all these bands, and we decided, oh, we got to do original music. So that's when I wrote the Killer Klowns March,
Oh, okay.
and I played it for my band, and they just thought it sounded too jazzy. So when I finally got into the music media business, and I got the opportunity to work on Killer Klowns, I thought, okay, that little riff has got a home now. So that's basically it. It started out when I was a little kid, and I mean, if I have to tell you all the gory details of working in this business, it would discourage everyone from. No one would want to listen to any
Yeah.
music. They realize
Yeah.
all the hassle
To be
you have to go
done.
through.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's every, industry, so it's like there's always that behind the scenes thing, so that always kind of keeps people,
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
a whole story unto itself. I mean, I mean, there are, I would say to people that want to get in this business, if they decide to go to university and study seriously, and or because you can do all sorts of things now. You can study pop music at big universities. You can take pop music, media music, and like serious music. You can study all three of them, or pick one. I would highly recommend, this is the Uncle John speaking now. Don't get caught up in getting a loan. If you can put off going to school where you can save up the money and at least pay for your first year, and you'll figure out how to pay for the rest of it, because you just don't want to be stuck with a student loan. I was very lucky because the economy was much different when I was a kid. The ratio of what someone earned to what living expenses cost had a great forgiving buffer, right? So every summer I worked at the Union 76 oil refinery for 3 months, and I made enough every summer to pay for the entire year, everything. And even when I was in school, I had a part-time job, like washing dishes or something like that. So I never had to worry about money. So you just have to plan it out. You just don't want to be stuck with a loan. It's the worst thing in the world. So I'm sorry. I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, that's all right. So yeah, for schooling, you had gone to Chapman University and UCLA. What are some things that you learned from, those programs that you incorporated into your, projects?
Well, you're not gonna you can graduate with a doctorate degree in music. You're still not going to stop learning. It's like the launch pad. You know what I'm saying? It's like good teachers will show you examples of what came, in this case, in music history, and what's happening currently in music and what's happened in the past. And you can use that as a springboard to move yourself forward. It's not like I came out after being at UCLA and and I'm an expert now. It's just not it. That's like the beginning. It kind of like opens up your ears and eyes to what you can discover in the future. It's always a good start, so that's basically it. Because I'm still learning. There's still new things. There's skills that I did not have like 6 or 7 years ago that I'm very good at now. Well, I have a high level of competency. I wouldn't want to, like, for instance, like video editing. I can do video editing much better than I could 6 years ago. And I learned how to do it by making a ton of mistakes and having professional editors look at my stuff and say, "Oh, you know what? You're doing good here. You could, you don't have to dwell on this. You don't have to dwell on that." And for a time, I worked in the advertising industry, doing big commercials for all the big agencies. We would have there would be IBM commercials, all the phone companies, car companies, and all that. And I learned a lot about. There's a great deal that I learned from that, other than working on music. And so I learned, and I just found out that it's fun to learn something new. My music production skills, constantly honing them down, constantly working. There's just not one way to do that I do things. I mean, I constantly evolving them, evolving those skills. And like I said, I like to say that I'm not an expert at it, but when it comes to my own music, I feel like I'm an expert at doing it. And if I need help from someone else, I always I'm never delay the urge to call someone that knows more than I do to make something better or to make something work. If I'm, for instance, if I need an orchestral session where I need a lot of very highly highly uh, artistic expert musicians to play, there's two people that I call, and
Mm.
they arrange for those people to be at the session. So I put that I give them as much input as I can on in the music and the score, and then I rely on them to bring a performance and help interpret what I've made, and that takes years of working with people. It takes people skills. Um, I would say another thing: if you're going to be going to college, make sure you take all the psychology classes that you can, because you're going to be running into just about every personality type you can imagine. You're going to be running
Yeah.
into in the business, and
Yep.
you want to be ready to. You want to be able to recognize that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely.
So I hope my what I said so far isn't boring. Is there you guys want to know more about Killer Klowns itself? I bet.
Oh no, we want to just we
I
start off kind of
so
getting into everything, like letting
yeah,
everybody know a
Hmm.
little bit about you, you know.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you because this is something that I never really thought about before.
Hmm.
I imagine the process for scoring a film or making movies, music
Hmm.
specifically for a film, is a
Hmm.
lot different than just making other types of music because you're kind of interpreting a vision, I guess is a way to like
Hmm.
look at it.
Right. Hmm.
So I guess I'm just asking, like, in your opinion, how does it differ? Is it harder? Does it feel, is there more pressure around it because you're also doing it for this film? Like, how did, like, what's the process behind it? And, like, kind of how do you approach it?
Well, can I use a baseball metaphor?
Sure.
Absolutely not. No, just
Okay,
kidding.
I'll use the baseball metaphor. There was back in the day, the Los Angeles Dodgers had a pitcher, their star pitcher. His name is Oral Hershiser,
I knew you were going to
and
say
they
that.
asked him, "What's it like going up to the mound and pitching a game?" He says, "I've done it all my life since I was a little kid, and it's still a daunting task. You know, it's not anything that you put yourself on. You can't put yourself on an automatic pilot. You know
Mm.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Every situation is completely different. Uh, all I know is that if you have a good understanding of the project you're working on and the people that you're working with and what they're looking for, and their trust in your skill set, that is very valuable,
Okay.
right? So once you know that, and you reach like a mutual comfort zone, then you have to approach it bit by bit. You realize I never stare at an empty piece of music paper, and figure out what am I going to do. I always go kind of out into the world. I work for uh, I worked with and under some very, very talented composers back in the day. There was a TV series called Little House on the Prairie
Mm.
that was like kind of big in the 70s. I think it went into the early 80s.
Yeah.
And the composer for that series, it was he was like 83 or 82 when I started working with him. He was like my grandpa, and he said, "Listen, don't look at the music paper. Think of the music in your head. Here's the scene." And this is we had just started getting VHS tapes of the TV shows that we can look at and roll back and forth and come up with music. Before then, people just gave you basically the script with timings on it, and it's marked off where the music goes. Right. This is before, unless you rented a Moviola, which is like a little editing machine. It was very clunky. So he said, you want to look at the scene, you want to put it away. Don't think about anything. Think about the experiences that are in that, all the activity that's in that scene, and sit at the piano and dream something up, and then write it down.
Yeah.
something as simple as that. Because if you're going to just like, if you get like so caught up in like timing out your measures and making sure that on this particular event it lands on a downbeat of a bar, it's like you're kind of like, at least in my opinion, you're taking the art out of it. So I want to like develop a piece of music that maybe um, that piece of music can work with three work through three different scenes instead
Mm,
of looking at each scene as a block of a task to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
So it for me personally, it makes the experience more rewarding, and I don't feel that like I'm being hit over the head with like a job, if that
yeah.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
Hit over the head with a mallet.
Yeah. But you have to bring something to it. I think you got to go out in the world. You have to like make some music, and you got to make some music that's wonderful, make some stuff that's horrible. You're going to find out that not everyone understands your music. They might not like it. I mean, there's so many composers, they've made music that no one's understood until like generations later.
Yeah.
Time had to work its magic on it, and so I don't know if that helps, but it's kind of,
I'm
there's some
willing.
things that I do I feel that are second nature, and
Yeah.
I really have to, when younger composers ask me about it, I have to really think about how I did it, because some things evolve without you thinking
Sure.
about it, and
Mm,
so to be able to verbalize it, it helps other people, just like the people that taught me, you know
Yeah.
they learned one way, but then they found another way to work on it. And trust me, I've run into composers that it's the whole music industry is like a hustle. It's like a racket. It's not really about doing the music you really like. It's just doing whatever will work in the fastest amount of time where you can pick up your money and go home.
Yeah.
And that's not me, although I do like to pick up my money and go home, but I like to enjoy myself at the same time. And I want to be able to look back at something with like some fondness and say, oh yeah, that was I remember the experience writing that and making that happen. That was a lot of fun.
yeah.
you
Well, you've been having a great time, you know what I mean? You have won the Frank Sinatra Music Award,
Mhm.
so congratulations on that. Your
Thank you. That
career
was
is,
a million years ago, but thank you.
hey, it is what it is. You got to start from somewhere. It's definitely an
Yeah, yeah,
award that stands out.
yeah. And
Um,
I've done like a lot of things.
yeah,
Besides Killer Clowns, there's a lot of things I've done, and I'm just so happy that people liked our little film to the point where it's, after all these years, it does
Yeah.
something for people. Are you guys going to be showing a video, or is it going to be projected on as a film?
we're doing the video.
Okay,
So we have a
okay.
projector and everything, but yeah, it's gonna be the 4K that had
Oh,
just
that's
released
nice.
a few years ago. So
That's
yeah,
nice.
it's definitely a great film. It's definitely a huge gateway horror film for fans
Hmm.
to get into the genre because I remember when I had seen it when I was younger, and and now today, like that's one of my kids' favorite films. You know what I mean? Like they go back to it and they're just like always watching it, and they're just like that's their top. My son's like second favorite movie, Jaws and Killer Klowns from Outer Space. Those are
That's
his two
awesome.
favorite films. So um definitely, man. So what was it like, working on that film?
Well, let me I'll tell you. Let me go back to what you were talking about. I've luckily I'm so blessed to have met so many people that like this little crazy little film, and the
Hmm.
stories they've told me are just like, some of them are tear jerkers. There's one girl, she lives up in your neck of the woods. She lives in Connecticut.
Okay.
Her name is Ashley, and she has an entire sleeve of the movie tattooed, I think on her left arm. And I asked her, I go, "That's some beautiful artwork. It's like took 2 years to do. What made you do that?" She said, "I took care of my mom in hospice care for quite, several months before she passed away, And every so often, like at least 3 or 4 times, she would want to see Killer Clowns from Outer Space because it made her laugh.
Huh.
It made her happy. And so, and that's like the biggest, to me, that's the biggest, to bring joy to someone.
Yeah.
And she said they all liked the music. It was a lot of
Mm.
fun. And so what was it like working on Killer Clowns? Okay, I'll go back to that. First of all, just like anything else, it had to do an audition. And when I saw the movie, it was, I believe it was a screening room at Warner Brothers Pictures. They had, because it's kind of a central area um, that all the composers could come to. And there were probably a good 50 people in the room. And I think half of them were the agent and the other half were the composers. And during the movie, people walked out.
Oh man.
And because this ain't for me. And when I saw when there's that, you come up to that scene in the first going from the first into this, yeah, kind of like into the first reel, because I think it was cut in 10-minute reels if I'm not mistaken. um there was that scene in the forest where you saw that circus tent. There was a spaceship, and I said, you got me. I'm in. I'm all in on this. I know where you guys are going. That was so serious. That was so beautiful, so elegant, that as far as I was concerned, the whole movie could take place in that movie theater. And so after now the only music that was in the movie was the Dickies song at the very beginning. Now, for people who don't know, the Dickies at the time, if you're into punk music at all, they were kind of like the Ramones of Los Angeles.
Mm.
They're still together, and they still make music. And they're Leonard and Stan. They are the founding members that are still in the band. They have 3 other guys that are incredible musicians. And if you ever get to see their uh, performances, they have so much energy. Anyways, when that song came on, I go, dang it, someone got the song gig. Shoot, I was mad, but then it was so much fun. It really set the tone for the movie. I go, this is going to be a lot of fun. So after the screening, the music director, his name was Bob Hunka, really wonderful guy. As a matter of fact, I talked to him a few months ago. He later went on to be the music director at Sony Pictures for quite a while. He said, "Oh, guys, there's some little gift bags as you go out. It has a cassette in it. It has instructions. Uh, Pick whatever scene that you like that would show off what you're gonna do." And I couldn't wait to tear into that thing. Oh man, man, I went home. I looked at that movie, and this is what I learned from the other composers. There's another composer by the name of Jerry Fielding who did a lot of Clint Eastwood movies that I worked for him. He would watch a movie at triple speed, fast, like not even hear the sound, just
Mm.
watch the movie and backwards like 2 or 3 times. And it's amazing how you can get the pacing of a movie, like the chapters kind of all of a sudden start to make sense because you kind of compress them in a way where in your mind you can kind of mind in your psyche you can experience them. So the scene I chose, which I felt was like the keystone moment of the whole movie, was where the kids walk into the spaceship and they get chased out and the clowns march on the town. I figured if anyone sees just that scene of the movie, they kind of get what the whole movie is about. And just about every theme and motif that's throughout the entire movie is in that, like it's like a 5 or 6 minute sequence, right? So, so I did that, and obviously when the clowns march on the town, you hear the famous Killer Clown March. So I did that. So I worked all that in together, and I, they recognized what I was going for, and they liked it because I treated it like the music was very legitimate sounding, very classical sounding, which was a good contrast to the movie. Because according to what I've heard, most of the composers just made a bunch of goofy circus sounds, and it just really wasn't playing. You need the
Right.
music to be, the music is basically like the straight man. So if the
Hmm.
music is legitimate and you have these crazy killer clowns going on, it helps a great deal. And several years ago, we did a live concert with an orchestra, with the Hollywood Chamber Orchestra. We did a live to film performance, and the director Steve Kyoto said, the synthesizer score had legitimate compositions in it, and now hearing it played by an orchestra, it's even more legitimate, and the movie's even more funny because of that.
Yeah.
So that was the approach that I had. I figured, one way to have music be funny is have it be like the straight man. It has to be a
Right.
character in the comedy continuum, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah, myself and Dave, we were able to go see a screening of Demons with Goblin playing live. And you just talked about, doing the show with the Dickies and everything like that. When can we see you back on the road again and doing something like that down this way?
Well, I'm working on
Yeah.
it. I'm working on it. I won't go into details of that because that would discourage from people from being in the music business. But I decided, hey, no one's doing this. I'm just going to do this.
Yeah.
And there were
Yep.
people that thought it was absolutely crazy until they sat down and enjoyed the show for 2 hours. I don't
Yep.
know if you're familiar with the YouTube horror influencers, Dead Meat James.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how I met them. I invited them to cover my concert, and so you can check out their YouTube channel, and they cover the concert. They
Okay.
they, they were there, and they also I think recently they also did a recount of the kill count, and
Yeah.
they said some kind words about the music, which was really nice. And they also that's where they met their one of their people, one of their influencers that they also work with. His name is Zoran. He was my announcer that night, and
Oh, okay.
that's how they met. So and it was on
Nice.
Hollywood Boulevard, and it was on the official day that it was released.
Okay.
Very cool.
Because the Wikipedia has it being on the 27th, but it was actually on the 18th that
Hmm.
it
Yeah.
played at the Egyptian Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, and so I just wanted it to be on that day. And we had most of the cast there. There was also one of the Terenzi brothers. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years after that, and that was the most wonderful thing that he came. Everyone loved him, and he was just such a natural. We did a Q&A before, and he was just such a natural with the crowd, and yeah, it was quite an experience. And we're working on trying to bring that
Yeah.
as a reality. But the one way to help me is everyone like buzz about it, in their own special way.
Hmm.
You can go to my YouTube channel and see scenes that I have clearance to show because I shot it like a movie
Okay.
Okay.
to archive it. But then I showed him the grand finale of the movie, and I got permission to have that on my YouTube channel. It's not monetized.
Okay.
So if your fans want to like check that out, make comments, and share it with other people, it helps because when you approach a company that's like oh, kind of a big company like NGM/Amazon with a great idea. I go, well, it's nice that you want to do it, but does everyone else want to see
Yeah.
it?
Yep.
And so you have to kind of work with them, and the fan base helps supporting that, but it will become a reality much quicker.
Okay. All
All right.
right.
Well, we got some work to do.
Yeah.
Well,
Aside from
it's basically looking at a YouTube video, and if you like it, you share it, or you,
Yep.
you
yeah.
share it on, there's that share button on YouTube
Yep.
that you can put it on Twitter, you can put it on Facebook, you can put it on Instagram, you can put it on TikTok, you know.
Yeah.
So you have my blessings to
Okay.
share it as much as you wish.
Aside from seeing you perform live, my
Yeah.
second wish would be that we get some kind of like maybe a vinyl release of all the scrapped audition music that was. I can only imagine what those other songs must have sounded like. That must have been a hot
That
pile.
would be interesting because I know at least. Well, I'm not going to tell you about the famous composers that, but I'll, you know what? I know the famous composers and that auditioned for it as
Yeah.
well, and also, uh, I think Leonard Phillips, the Dickies lead member, I think he did a demo too, as did the sound designer. His name is Chuck Sereno, and several other people. You know, that would be a really cool, like do a do a bootleg release.
Yeah. Off the cutting room floor or something like that. That would be something.
You know, I gotta tell you, I never thought of that. That's good because I released a reimagined album, which you can find on Amazon. That I do have the original demo on there.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah.
There you
so,
go.
but you have a point there.
It'd be something
You
to
should send me
explore.
an you should send me and shoot me an email so I can put the word out.
Okay.
Was it the deleted demo from outer space? There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rejected music from Killer Klowns from Outer Space.
All right. So, I mean, you kind of alluded to these earlier, but you have a vinyl release that was
Mhm.
came out from Waxworks, which is a great
Right.
company. They do a lot of great releases. And you also have a song in The Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the game, which was recently released. So,
Mhm.
I mean, can you speak on that specifically, like the Waxworks vinyl? That must have been a cool project to be able to work on and kind of see your music. And like, they always do such cool designs with the vinyls too.
Mhm.
So how'd you
Mhm.
feel about that final project?
Oh, it was. I just knew that whatever Waxworks was going to do, would be to, they only do really wonderful stuff. I mean, when you order when you order a vinyl from Waxworks, it looks like it was packed by NASA. I mean, it comes like in an indestructible box. It's just
Yeah.
wonderful. They take so much pride in what they do, and I had what I did. What I did after the movie was over, about a few years afterwards, when you mix music for a movie, you do what's called a movie mix. That the mix is set up in such a way where it takes into account all the sound effects and dialogue and all that. So what I did is I went back to the company and I got the master tapes and I did what's called the record mix. Where I could just like fan everything out and make everything even more lush and pretty and colorful and everything like that. When I returned the tapes, the some of the people in the legal departments asked me what that was. I says, "Oh, this is one of your products. It's Killer Klowns from Outer Space." They go, "Oh, you can just put that in the dumpster. What did you bother bringing it back here for?" And I said,
Hmm.
"This is not your movie.
Mm.
People are going to love this movie." Anyways, so I had a nice record mix available from the original masters from way back when, that I recorded it on high definition audio in 1992. There were some there were there was a system where you can master onto high definition digital. So I had that. So I gave that to the Waxworks people, and they did a little extra tweaking and remastering, and it just sounds. If you hear the record sounds wonderful. If you get the high def digital download, oh my goodness, it's so creamy. It's so beautiful. It's like, even I gotta admit, I will confess, when it first came out, I I told everyone in the house, Dad's gonna be with his headphones on in a dark room. I want to listen to what it's at. And boy, it was like I relived the experience of
Yeah.
creating the music. It was really beautiful. And the fact that people enjoy it and they love the artwork. I mean, you got to give huge props to the Kyoto brothers and their imagination and
Mm.
their sense of color and You know, I mean, the story is modeled after The Blob, but it has so many cute and funny things in it because it's
Yeah.
just not comedy. It's like there's well, it's not just horror and gore and jump scares. It's got endearing comedy in it,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and where they gave simple lines to people that they can run with, you know, all those factors play into it, and also what's also well received was I did a reimagined album where I went into a studio, recorded with an orchestra on particular highlights from the movie. Also had a lot. I had the Dickies play on that. Also had um, my friend Bear McCreary, who does The Walking Dead. He
Oh
plays
yeah.
on that
Hmm.
album,
Yeah.
and so it's a lot of fun. It's just a lot of it's you know it's a fun movie. It's like you guys are going to have pizza and beer. It's like comfort
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
It's such a unique soundtrack because of, I mean, the obvious. It's like carnival theme.
Hmm.
So it's like such a unique soundtrack. There's not, I can't think of anything else really like it.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's such a great project for someone to be attached to
Hmm.
because it's standalone. Like, what else
Yeah,
compares to it, right?
yeah. It's I was really happy that the Kyoto brothers were tuned into their own work. They were very, very specific. They said, "Listen," and they had a list of movies. These are the movies we like, and we like the music. We like what the music is doing. These are the movies where we can't stand the music and do not do anything like it. And a lot of those movies were contemporary horror films. So I'm not going to mention which ones. It says, please don't do it like this. I can't stand that sound. I can't stand this thing, and I can't stand that thing. And I just, they said, just tune in. We also had a very similar background. When they were going to seeing the movies where they were kids, their dad was a big fan of movies, so they went to see all these Ray Harryhausen movies, the basically the movies that I saw,
Yeah.
and they were just inspired by them. So to see that that has endured and people enjoy it, and not only the generation from when it originally came out still enjoy it, but their children and grandchildren and great grandchildren, because yes, I have had people says my great grandson. I just introduced him to Killer Klowns from
Yeah.
Outer Space. I go, wow, I'm
Yeah.
very happy. I don't know if that's a. I don't know how to take that, but I'm glad your great grandson
Yeah.
loves the movie that we worked on,
That's
and it
amazing.
brings smiles to people's faces every time I go to a screening. Sometimes I've seen it enough times when I've worked on it. I have not often sat through the entire thing as entertainment. I probably counted on one hand, but I do enjoy when we go do lectures at a college or something where there's not enough room for us to sit, so we sit outside. It's just interesting to hear some of the audience reaction
Mhm.
Mm.
to it's like because some people are seeing it for the very first time,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So, and they just completely crack up, you know.
Well, we'll definitely keep you posted after our
Okay.
screening to let you know
Okay.
how that audience. Well, if we can capture some video footage, we'll try to do so and share it
Oh,
with
I'd
you
love to.
if
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
And you'll edit out all the boring stuff because all my
Oh,
ramblings, my
please, please,
Nah.
nothing boring here.
But
because you don't want
Yeah.
people falling asleep before the movie starts.
So, John,
Yeah.
we want to thank you for coming on here.
mm,
We want to thank you also for creating something that's, lived and been able to serve such a great purpose for so many people. Like you said,
mm,
there's so many people who have connected to this film, who have
Mhm.
like emotional connection to the film, which,
Right.
for a movie that's like easily kind of dismissed as like a silly horror comedy. That's
Hmm.
pretty amazing that it's had that impact on so many people, and so many people come out time and time again to see it. Um, the movie has like 1,000 legs, and it just keeps going. So I don't see that changing anytime soon, unless the world changes
That's what we
drastically.
love. That's what, and we're on our end here, myself and the Killer Brothers, we're always doing something to help perpetuate it. I mean,
Yep.
obviously, people enjoy the movie, it brings joy to people, and it makes their world a little brighter and more
Yeah.
terrifying at the same
Yep.
time.
Yes. Yep. Yep. The Killer Clowns will live on forever. So
Forever.
that's what we
Thank
hope.
you.
So,
Thank
John,
you.
thank you so much for joining us. Everybody that's
Thank you,
listening,
guys.
if you haven't checked out, if you're one of the minority that hasn't checked out Killer Clowns, please do so. Please take special note to the immaculate score of the film, so that you can kind of see why we were so excited to have John here. And then if you're in our area in New England, make sure you come by Buttonwoods Brewery, July 26th. Check out Killer Clowns from Outer Space screening. There'll be some amazing food, great beer, some special art, all that stuff. But it'll be a great time. And once again, John, thank you for joining us.
Thank you
And
for having me. I appreciate
every
it.
everybody have a great night. We'll see you later.